Stemming from a massive oversupply of meat by the US, the European mad cow scare, and more recently the emergence of E. coli bacteria in Japan, local meatworks are at their lowest ebb.
Many of my members tell me it's the toughest trading environment in their living memory.
New South Wales has 40 country meatworks providing employment for more than 10,000 people, but current industry pressure means jobs can't be guaranteed.
We hope not. It's so tough that you can't rule those things out of the equation, but we're a very resilient mob and we'll keep battling on and doing our best.
Today, 200 delegates met in Port Macquarie for the 37th Annual Country Meatworks Association Convention. High on their agenda this week is making inroads into new international and domestic markets. Mary Grills, NBN News.
For decades, the Bullaroo skyline has been dominated by the Pasminco smelter. Plans for a $20 million expansion will require the company to address a raft of environmental and noise controls. The most striking, a giant noise barrier dividing the plant from neighbouring houses.
It would be a green mound with trees and then coming down into a parkland, which is really what most of the community have told us that they'd like to see.
The company plans to build the mound 300 metres long and 10 metres high, with a 2 metre tall noise barrier running across the top, similar to those used to shield homes from highway traffic. The company has already purchased every home in First Street and most in Second Street. However, Lake Macquarie Mayor John Kilpatrick is worried it could leave the area looking like a prison. He believes the proposed mound is unnecessary.
A lot of people have said to me that they don't have a problem with the sulphide as they know it, and they're quite happy with what's there.
Because the state government is the consent authority for the project, Lake Council is worried it could throw traffic planning into chaos.
First Street was to be the extension of the main road through from the main road down near Cockle Creek through to Hillsborough Road.
Construction of the Pasminco mound is expected to begin in the middle of next year. In recent years, Western's 3,500 residents have watched as businesses and shoppers drifted away from the main street. Now, Australia Post plans to close the post office opposite what used to be the Commonwealth Bank. It's left many locals angry.
Why don't you make a good job of it? Shut our chemist shop, shut our hospital, you've shut our bank, you've shut our post office. Why don't you shut the lot and make a good job of it? Because we've all had a gutful.
Australia Post argues it's not abandoning the town. Like 70% of the country's post offices, it will be run as a private business, in this case located in the local video store.
The older people are scared in case they get robbed when they go to withdraw their savings, because we have a lot of unemployed people around here, and it's going to be easy to follow the old people home.
Edward Coogan-Frame, a veteran of the failed campaign to stop the Commonwealth Bank closing, says there are not plans for another sit-in. However, he warns the elderly could pay a high price for the move to the video shop on the main street.
I'll make a prediction now, and I hope I'm entirely wrong. I can see casualties here, if not deaths, because we've got no control over our traffic here.
The post office will officially close on Friday. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Armchair adventurers keenly devour the pages of such tales, and becoming a published author was a piece of cake, according to Alan, after overcoming the world's oceans. His 4-year campaign to circumnavigate the globe in the 1995 BOC yacht race was the culmination of a dream, now put to paper in Against All Odds.
Well, a lot of people in the region especially were really interested and followed our the race and my entry and the whole campaign process, so I think it's a kind of a bit more of an overview of the whole picture, and I think there's a lot of interest in that.
With the goodwill and financial backing of the City of Newcastle, Alan distinguished himself in the race, overcoming impossible odds and saving the life of a fellow competitor. The story was soured with the promised sale of his yacht so far falling through, along with the return of funds to the city. If you're a little kid sailing on Lake Liddell again, would you go through all this? Would you do it all over again?
Oh, I think I'd have to, certainly. Yeah, it's been great. It's really good. You know, not a lot of people really get to do exactly what they want to do, and I've been able to do that, so now I just have to think of what I want to do next.
Junior doctors from the John Hunter Hospital rallied at 8 this morning, the start of their 24-hour stoppage. Their protest is part of an ongoing campaign against federal government plans to restrict new doctors' access to Medicare, a move they say will affect all health users.
Ultimately, people will be forced to attend local emergency departments who are already overstressed and understaffed for common ailments.
Routine admissions and transfers ground to a halt, however emergency treatment and elective surgery were not affected. Meanwhile, junior doctors from the Central Coast performed a mock funeral at Gosford Hospital, calling the government's move a death sentence for the health system. Elective surgery and outpatient services were cancelled at the Gosford, Woy Woy and Wyong hospitals. Emergency services continued as usual. After the protests, striking doctors donated blood to the hospital before distributing pamphlets to patients explaining their protest. Strike action will continue tomorrow when junior doctors walk off the job at the Mater Hospital in Newcastle. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
Back to business at the Gretley Colliery, a week after 4 miners were killed by a wall of water and gas. The first shift of 42 miners returned to the pit today. The mood was described as subdued, workers still shocked by the events of the past week. Less than 24 hours earlier, they'd attended the funerals of their 4 mates. The site of the disaster remains closed, but other work has resumed. The investigation is continuing into the deaths. The results should be known early in the new year. Meanwhile, a survey by the Royal North Shore Hospital's Professor Ross Harris may provide some clues to why accidents like Gretley happen. He surveyed 700 injured miners. A quarter blamed understaffing for the cause of their accident.
Sometimes they were working in areas where they didn't have sufficient workforce.
Miners also complained of below standard safety around hazardous geology and materials. The report has been passed on to mines throughout the state, with 3 Hunter Valley operators looking at its recommendations. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. Firefighters often enter burning buildings as if blind, the smoke screen too thick to see through. They're forced to feel their way around rooms as they look for people who may be trapped by the smoke and flames. But now, technology has come to the rescue.
Well, it's a turbocharged fan. What it does is increase the air pressure inside the building, and that in turn forces the smoke and the gas from the fire out of the building through vents or doorways which we can open.
Homes can be cleared in a matter of minutes, reducing the need for water and in turn the amount of damage to property. And in a job where every second counts, it can literally mean the difference between life and death.
If people are in the house, it does remove a lot of the smoke quicker, and therefore it would be assumed that they could be given a much greater chance of survival.
The four fans come just a few weeks after the arrival of the new hazardous materials truck in Newcastle. It'll back up other hazmat units throughout northern New South Wales which are confronted by dangerous chemicals. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
From dairyland to industrial park and now earmarked for residential and even mining exploration, the land around Beresfield is being seen by entrepreneurs as the pot of gold at the end of the freeway. Today, the first stage of the 60-hectare light industrial Homewood Business Park was opened. The land is being developed by local interest, offering more than 20 warehouse and factory lots in a naturally landscaped area. The project is valued at $16 million and could employ 1,200 people.
They're ideally located to the end of the F3 freeway and also the New England Highway. It's only a few hundred metres away in each direction, so they can take advantage of decentralised industries, of staging bases for warehousing. All those sorts of opportunities are now available to it, and of course along with that comes the employment opportunities for our local people in Newcastle.
Other proposals for nearby land include housing and open-cut mining.
There's been some accelerated action in bringing forward the Section 69 certificate from the Department of Urban Affairs and Planning to now allow Newcastle City Council to proceed with a draft local environment plan, which hopefully will allow residential development on the other side of Weekleys Drive to where we're standing, and will, I would hope, lead to the mine exploration ceasing.
The new park is the result of unique cooperation between private landowners, public authorities who gave up land, state and local governments as well as environmental groups. And unlike other state rec areas, no entry fees will be charged.
Now what we're going to have right around Lake Macquarie is a string of these areas all linked together under the umbrella of the state recreation area, and I think over time we'll see more parcels of land added to that area.
The park includes 650 hectares of land at Awabba Bay between Marmong and Bolton Points, Wangi Point, the Morishead Hospital site, Point Wollstonecroft, Myuna and Chain Valley Bay.
To actually see now these foreshore lands protected for future generations. You know, it's a fact. They can't be developed. They're now in the hands of the National Parks and Wildlife Service, and they're there forever.
With many of the lake's last remaining sensitive spots safe, focus has again shifted to including Greenpoint.
I think Greenpoint is the missing link in the Lake Macquarie State Recreation Area. We're negotiating with the Lake Macquarie Council now to get that land to come across, and I think that eventually that they will realise that it's missing. It could really benefit from inclusion, and in fact we're going to not be changing the management practices largely. We'll just be improving on what's there already.
It's a big match for Newcastle tonight. The side is coming off a loss to South Melbourne last weekend, and coach John Cosmina has brought Harry James into the starting lineup for the first time this year. The Hunter Eagles have just started their ABL series against the Gold Coast Cougars at Carrara. The visitors will be without shortstop Chris Bradley. The in-form Eagle, who was named the ABL's Player of the Week a fortnight ago, has succumbed to a groin injury. Meantime, a star-studded field of international and local ski races will take to the Hawkesbury River on Sunday for the Bridge-to-Bridge Water Ski Classic. A number of Grafton Bridge-to-Bridge races will compete this weekend over the 112-kilometre course. World champion Leanne Brown expected to be the front-runner in the women's. And it's round 4 of the Australian Junior Triathlon Series on Sunday at Salamander Bay. All competitors have moved on from the Lake Macquarie race a fortnight ago and will tackle a 750-metre swim, 20-kilometre cycle and 5k run. Jonathan Upton, NBN News. It was a start coach John Cosmina would dream of. After only 30 seconds, the Breakers were on the attack. Some Troy Halpin magic and Clayton Zane's left footer split the gap. The goal spurred on the locals and a 5-minute raid nearly netted more. Harry James' close call, followed by another near miss for the captain. Newcastle should have led and led easily. The locals were completely in control until a lapse in concentration after 25 minutes gave Collingwood the equaliser. Breakers keeper Liam Baker wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. He thwarted the Warriors' other first half charges, and at the break it was 1 goal all. As if it wasn't cold enough, torrential rain welcomed players for the start of the second term, but it failed to dampen both sides' attempts at breaking the deadlock. Even with a bit of support from the opposition, Newcastle looked as though it would get the advantage. Troy Halpin's chance from long range, followed by another from point blank. It just wasn't Newcastle's night. At the siren, another draw, their 4th in 5 matches. Sableyes paid $3.60 and $1.70 for the win. Alsa Vansala paying $1.50, $1.90 for late bid. The Quinella $8 even, and the trifecta $61.10.
The Williams River is the lifeblood of the region, a valuable source for both drinking and farming. However, the waste runoff from dairy farms in the Dungog district is contributing to high phosphorus levels in the river, spawning the growth of blue-green algae. That's why farmers have begun collecting animal waste from dairy sheds for recycling.
100% of everything that's in that drain and in that pond can be turned back into the property.
Jim Stubbins has built a natural drain to collect 25 tonnes of sludge every 6 months. The solids are filtered out, allowing clean water to seep into a 700,000 litre dam. This water is used for irrigation, returning vital nutrients to the soil. New South Wales Agriculture is pleased with the response from farmers.
Out of the 60-odd farmers in this Williams River catchment, almost 2/3 have actively got in to improve the method they use to handle their effluent.
The department is encouraging other farmers in the region to set up similar systems. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
It's a case of so close yet so far for the Wyong Civic Centre. 95% of the 3-storey building is complete. However, builders have walked off the job. Contractors for the $8 million centre, Beattie and Frost, are believed to have gone into receivership, bringing the project to a halt. An embarrassed Wyong Council says the centre is behind schedule.
We're possibly looking at up to a 3-week delay at the moment. And once work starts, it's between 1 and 2 months to actually finish it off.
Council today met with the receivers, and it's believed Council will complete the project by itself, within the original contract price and with no impact on ratepayers. Wyong Council isn't the only casualty involved. Several subcontractors who worked on the site say they're yet to be paid.
Subbies are unable to get paid, then that goes round. They can't buy their Christmas presents, for instance. So it's a bad situation for everyone.
Council is unsure when work will resume on the project. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
For many, Christmas is just another day in the year. It comes and goes without the trimmings many others enjoy. Annual appeals help to ease some of the isolation. The Hunter Mission launched its campaign today. They're aiming to raise $30,000 for the region's homeless and poor, most of which will go towards a Christmas Day lunch in Civic Park.
There's been a lot of people that even ring me during the year and have said how much they enjoyed and how much it meant to them to be able to get together and spend it with others.
Newcastle Knights players Matthew and Andrew Johns have given their support to the appeal. Meanwhile, Knights prop Paul Harrigan lent his support to another campaign in Newcastle.
St Vincent de Paul 1996 launch for a Christmas appeal is now officially open.
St Vincent de Paul is aiming to collect $100,000 to buy hampers. They'll be delivered on Christmas Day throughout the Maitland Newcastle diocese. Members of the Salvation Army, Lifeline and Red Cross were among those lending their support to the appeal.
It's crucial that we work together more closely, and the days of agencies actually being in competition with each other are well and truly gone.
Both organisations are asking for food, gifts and money during the coming month.
Hopefully, if I can swing a decent stick, which is probably my main point, maybe help them out offensively a little bit.
Four draws in the last 5 games has Newcastle hurtling down the ladder. Coach Cosmina says the only way his players can climb back up is to bring out the mongrel in their games.
You've basically got to be able to kick your grandmother in the head to put the ball in the back, and that's the kind of attitude you have to have.
But the Breakers will need more than just attitude to down the Melbourne Knights at home. The reigning premiers have had a slow start to the season, but would leapfrog the Breakers with a win tomorrow night. In a bid to prevent that, Cosmina has made one change to the team that drew with Collingwood last week.
Bring Glenn Moore in for Matty Austin. Matt's been... His mind's not really been on the job the last couple of weeks, and he's made a couple of silly mistakes that he's repeating.
There's also pressure on the Breakers' midfield, with Mark Wilson returning to the squad after being sidelined with a leg injury for the past 4 games.
Well, Mark's in the squad. I haven't decided whether I'll play him yet or not. But if he doesn't play, he'll certainly put pressure on the other 2 blokes in the middle of the park.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Police diverted traffic away from Sandgate Road, Shortland for an hour as rescue workers tried to pry the driver, a 71-year-old woman, from the vehicle. The elderly woman and her 87-year-old husband were travelling home along Sandgate Road just after 10:30 this morning. The vehicle mounted the curb near the intersection at Martin Street and Sandgate Road, hitting a power pole head-on. The passenger was killed instantly while his wife was taken to the John Hunter Hospital in a critical condition. Meanwhile, a 30-year-old Rutherford man, Peter Lind, was killed overnight when the car he was driving slammed into a wooden fence outside the Allendale Hospital near Cessnock. A passenger, a 15-year-old Cessnock girl, was airlifted to the John Hunter Hospital with head injuries. Another man, a 31-year-old from Maitland, was treated for minor injuries. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
The worst injuries to the police officer, he's possibly got spinal injuries. Another gentleman there has some injuries and shock, and another person has an injury to his just to his body.
Right, so all the people...
Riders tested the Newcastle Showground track today. The long straights and sand surface considered perfect for the deciding round.
Well, there's been a lot of rivalry right throughout the last 10 weeks, and at the moment Gabor Roth from Hungary is leading slightly from Miroslav Czernik from Poland.
They're among 7 European riders who've toured Australia for the 11 rounds of the series. But local riders are expected to spring a few upsets on the night.
There's some very good riders here, like McPaul, Stephen Davies, very, very hard to beat anywhere in the world, but especially here. And then Craig Watson, who's a good young up-and-coming local rider, has got a big future.
Meanwhile, the Hunter Eagles are less than an hour away from the start of their away series against the Adelaide Giants. The Eagles will be trying to improve on last week's split result as the team tries to push its way into the top 4. And some good Newcastle train chances at Warwick Farm tomorrow, including a Nova Castrian duel in the 4th, with the horses of Paul Perry and Max Lees sharing favouritism in pre-post markets.
Robbie Ironside is no newcomer to the role of captain. The 29-year-old midfielder has led Sydney Olympic as well as New Zealand, surprisingly though never Newcastle.
It will be no different for Robert tonight to what it is any other week. He talks a lot through the game, he tries to motivate, he sometimes gets up people.
All of that action starts soon at Breakers Stadium, Ironside getting the duties at the expense of suspended breaker Troy Halpin. Also tonight, the start of a big weekend of racing at the Newcastle International Motordrome. The New South Wales Sidecar Championships kick off proceedings while the state speed car champion will be decided on Saturday. The state's strongest swimmers will make a splash on Budgewoi Lake on Sunday in the New South Wales Marathon Series. World champion open water swimmer Grant Robinson will lead the field over a 4 and 6 kilometre course. And also Sunday, Redhead Beach will host the Interbranch Junior Surf Life Saving Teams Championships. More than 90 clubs will be represented from as far north as Kingscliff to Eden on the south coast. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.